Hello, good evening. Uh, Hello, good evening. Thank you for joining. This is Dikshita here from Matrix 3D. I'd अरे भोको करूँ. Hello, good evening, all. Uh, Thank you for joining. This is Dikshita here from Matrix 3D. I'd like to welcome you all on this webinar, which is for decoding and simplifying SEBI cybersecurity and cyber resilience framework. Before we go ahead, I'd like to introduce my company, Metrix 3D. Metrix 3D is an IT security and service provider. And apart from this, we are a Microsoft partners. Since we are in this business for more than 30 years, we have multiple clients and a prospect who fall under regulated entities, and they have multiple doubts and questions regarding the framework. So basically the doubt was, what is SOC, what is VAPT? Is it necessary for all the entities to have ISO 27001 certification? And what are the budgeting? What would be the costing? These are the questions, and there were many more questions that was asked by us. So we just gave a thought, why not just put this thing on a online session and give the information that we have to all the REs. So I have Parvez here with me, who is an IT and AI expert. I am sure that he'll be able to answer all your questions, and he'll be able to solve your doubts and tell you what are your roles and responsibilities. Uh, Over to you, Parvez.
Good evening. Thank you, Dikshita. Thank you very much for introducing. Let me have the presentation. So it's a Tuesday afternoon, and thank you very much. I think we have enough quorum, and let me start. My name is Parvez Devan. I primarily look after IT security at Matrix City. And these days, we've been having a lot of questions about the SEBI CSCRF circular. And, there were many sessions which we also looked at for our clients, and we found that the circular 209 pages long is pretty complex. And I thought it is very well done, but it needs to be summarized so that, REs have primarily some aspect of understanding what to do, where to do. So, since it's already 5 minutes beyond the time, let's start. Uh, First, we need to understand who is this applicable for. Let me start with all of you all who've joined in, I'm sure you can see in which area of these 15 areas do you primarily come under. There are actually 19 as per the circular, but some of we have combined across. And it's interesting that you have to be in among these, and this almost covers up the entire MI spectrum, covers up a lot of other people. So you have to be, I'm sure you can place yourself in one of these boxes. Uh, some boxes are marked with a red border. That's interesting. I'll come to that why and where. First, let me start with what is CSCRF. Uh, Cybersecurity, cyber resilience, and framework. So cybersecurity and cyber resilience. First, let's understand the difference. What is the difference between cybersecurity and cyber resilience? Cybersecurity is your baseline, which we are pretty well aware of. We've been involved with cybersecurity. I'm sure your companies have a very strong and robust cybersecurity, and being REs dealing with a lot of financial data. There is a lot of there. Cyber resilience is the big daddy of all them. Cybersecurity or cyber resilience makes sure that, as you know, there is a very well-known saying that it's not about when will you be hacked. It's not about if you will be hacked. It will be about when will you be hacked. And cyber resilience is that, God forbid, if something happens, then how do you come back again? And what SEBI has done has just created a beautiful framework which allows us, and it's a very simple framework, it's a nice framework, but it also allows us to make our organization very secure. It makes sure that we have looked at all the checkboxes. We have made sure that we have put processes into place. We have put systems into place. So the cyber security, cyber resilience framework. And in my next few slides, I'll make it still simpler. Why CSCRF? The CSCRF aims to strengthen cybersecurity measures and ensure cyber resiliency against incidents or attacks for SEBI-regulated entities by providing standards and guidelines. So why? Because we know that you are always facing the threat of a cyber attack, and we need to make sure that if these incidents happen, what is the best practice to do this? SEBI has done a lot of research, has understood, and it has used lots of various experts to get these guidelines into place. And even if I think this is applicable to any organization today in India where we are handling customer data, where we are handling financial data. So CSCRF is very important. And I am really, really thrilled to know that SEBI has looked at not only cybersecurity, but also cyber resilience. By when do you need to do it? For 6 categories of REs where cybersecurity and cyber resilience circular already exists, by Jan 1st. That's already gone, right? We are on 28th of Jan. But for other REs, it is supposed to be 1st April 2025. Now, if you notice those red 6 boxes which had come up, those are the ones where you should have already had in place, but SEBI has issued a clarification. So now everybody gets the 1st April date. The Jan 1st date is no longer applicable. So we still have about 2.5 months, less than 2.5 months, about 2 months to make sure that we have this thing in place. So that's the timeline. And I'm sure most of you all are ready with at least part of it, or you know how to start off with it. Now, coming to CSCRF, how would you approach in your organization? I'm going to make it very simple. Cyber resilience encompasses cyber security. That means if we look, the way I would approach it, and I would recommend you approach it, is look at cyber resilience. And by default, by getting cyber resilience in place, you will get all the aspects of cyber security in it. I think that's the approach which we should take, because this will cover up both the aspects. Let me take cybersecurity separately. Okay, just a single slide on cybersecurity. Cybersecurity has governance. You need to put your policies in place. You need to put various different controls in place. Technical security, you need to have VAPT. You need to make sure that what is your insider risk, and operational controls. That means identity and access management. Who's accessing which data? Do you have logs? So cybersecurity, you have firewalls in place. You have network segmentation. You have policies. All this comes under cybersecurity. Quite a lot of this you have already put in place, and that's fantastic. So cybersecurity is the easy part. Now let's move next. So cyber resilience has various different aspects. SEBI defines this in 7 areas: governance, identify, protect, detect, respond, recover, and evolve. This is the process which goes. Evolve at the end is because cyber threats will continue growing. Cyber threats will primarily, we are looking at attacks across. So therefore, evolution is important. And cyber resilience focuses on respond and recover, because attack will always be there. It's just a question of when. So I'm going to take all these 7 boxes and I'm going to explain to you not what these mean, but I'm going to explain to you very single interesting points which you need to put in your checkbox and say, hey, is governance covered up in my organization? Is identify covered up? Is protect covered up? Is detect covered up? So I'm just going to take what is the gist of these aspects, because you obviously don't want to go to a 209-page document. You have come for this session because you want to quickly understand that what I need to do for each one, and I'm going to simplify it quite a lot for you. So let's look at governance. And let me kind of compress it. There is much more to it, but let me compress it. In governance, what SEBI says is, the CSCRF says is, you need to designate a person responsible for cybersecurity risk management. There should be somebody in your organization who will play the role of a security officer or of a CISO, depending on the size and at which level of an organization. But there has to be somebody. And this is a good practice to have somebody in your organization responsible for security. Next, policy. You have to have a written cybersecurity policy, which is documented and implemented. Also, personally, I would recommend that you should review your cybersecurity policy, which was created maybe 1 year, 2 years, 3 years back, and see whether all the implementations are there. If you are an MII and a qualified RE, you have to conduct third-party audits half yearly, and you have to do an internal audit at least once a year. Basically, this is as per the Cyber Capability Index. The CCI can be referred to in their appendix. That's primarily a part of certain and say SEBI. And the objective is for MIs and qualified REs that you have to show what are your figures on the CCI. One interesting part about governance is REs shall be responsible and accountable for any violations for all aspects related to third-party services. This is very interesting. This is a part of their thing. And it says that you being an RE, all your third-party vendors, if you are enlisting third-party, you need to make sure that you have controls set in place, documentation set in place, whether there are NDAs or there are agreements to make sure that this is watertight. So RE should be responsible and accountable for any violations. That means you have to have your documentation, your policies, your procedures in place when you're handling third party. You cannot just say, hey, look, I am making my company secure, but if there is a vendor or there is something and there is a violation, that's not my problem. You have to look into that. You have to make sure that your governance and your policies are in place. If you've been able to do that, you have quite a large level of success. Let's come to identify. Identify is pretty easy. And one of the interesting thing is that you have to just do the asset management. You have to identify and classify critical systems based on their sensitivity and criticality for business operations, services, and data management. Asset management and identifying which are your critical systems are very important because they may not be related only to the terminals. It could be related to the software and applications you're using. Additional to that, which is your network. So asset management becomes a very critical part. If your asset management is in place, then you have to move to the next one, which is identify risk, which says include comprehensive scenario-based testing for assessing risk, including both internal and external risks related to cybersecurity. So this looks at insider risk. That's very interesting. It looks at how are you doing, how are you going to identify your insider risk? How are you going to primarily look at risk based on your assets? How many software systems you have? How many IT systems do you have? What are the probability? And these are scenario based, that what happens, so and so happens. What happens if so and so happens? What is the work from home policy? What is the risk which you get from hiring external consultants? Every type of risk has to be identified. So that's pretty interesting. And if you've been able to do that, you have a success out there. So you've gone through identify. The next one we come to is protect. Now, protect is something which all of us find very easy if you are from the tech area, because protect primarily deals with the IT security. So protect is about how you're protecting your entire organization. The first one is authentication. That means primarily document and implement an authentication and access policy. Look at how you're going to create primarily a policy which will define who is going to access what and which resources, and also logs of what people are accessing. Network segmentation. So authentication comes under, if you are a techie, you know it comes under IAM, which is identity and access management. Network segmentation comes under your VLANs and different aspects, where you design and implement a network segmenting technique to restrict access to sensitive information. That means if you have some other software going on, other components going on, which are non-critical in nature, they should be on a different network segment. It's very important also to have full disk encryption. It's very important that you have to have file encryption and full disk encryption because this is not data in motion. So therefore, in case, God forbid, if one of the laptops or anything of that sort is compromised, then the data still remains encrypted, and if it is data in motion. Partitioning. Separate production and non-production environments for developing critical systems, software, and applications. Today, a lot of REs are developing different applications, use of AI, use of various different aspects. Please make sure that your known production environment and your production environments have to be independent and separate. That also the concept of VLANs and network segmentation comes into this. So Protect is pretty large and primarily technical in nature. A CTO or a CIO would be able to do that. Obviously, there's a second slide for Protect, which looks at VAPT. VAPT stands for vulnerability and penetration testing. If you're using any kind of systems, it is very important. And there are multiple VAPTs. There are VAPTs for applications. There are VAPTs for your website. There are VAPT for your network. Are you being attacked? Is your firewall being misconfigured? Are your cloud instances? You can have VAPT for your cloud instances and hosting. So it's very important. And they have given you a complete form to fill in. It's in the Annexure A, Part 3. They want you to primarily do the VAPT and fill in that form. Next is API controls. Implement API and endpoint security with rate limiting, throttling, and proper authentication authorization. Because we've had cases where the APIs were there, there was a compromise in an additional system. And what has happened is, if you do not have rate limiting and throttling, those are basically preventive measures to prevent the attack from spreading across from other systems to your systems, because if you are interfacing. So those have to be in place. And what they have done is, this is, I think, wonderful. What they have done is they have said, they have used the general recognized worldwide ISO 27001 as a baseline for you to start getting into compliance. So obtain ISO 27001 certification to ensure compliance with essential information security, which is ISMS. For mid-size, you have to follow ISO 27001 standards. If you are a qualified or MI, then certification for ISO 27000 is mandatory. So I hope all your organizations, if you are an MI and a qualified RE, you're primarily ISO 27. If not, you need to get that done urgently. And for mid-size, primarily if an audit is done and the forms you'll have to fill in will primarily legal. So you should follow ISO 27001 standards. If you've done that, you have a good success. Now coming to detect. How do you do detect? So detect is very simple. It is mandatory to continuously monitor and timely detection of security events and anomalies. It means basically what it says is that no matter how much you put in, you are going to be continuously be attacked. People are going to look for vulnerabilities. Hackers are going to look at how to compromise the system. We've had in the last 3 or 4 months various cases where REs have been compromised because they are sometimes really targets which can be easily penetrated because we are still maturing, and that's why also SEBI is also doing that. Market SOC. So what it is saying is that you 100% need a SOC, which is a security operating center. Security operating center basically monitors all your devices, critical devices, non-critical devices, and primarily tells you if there's something happening, there are anomalies, that means there's something going wrong, some devices getting hacked. Small REs and self-certification REs have been mandated to be on board on the market SOC, which SEBI itself is going to create. So there is something going to be called a market SOC, which is going to make things very cost effective. So you can subscribe to the market SOC by SEBI. And if you are a larger, you are a qualified RE, excuse me, if you're a qualified RE or an MII, not only can you have to set up your own SOC, you also have to give a biannual SOC efficacy report. Again, that is defined in Annexure N. The last one is red teaming. MIs and qualified REs shall conduct red teaming exercise as part of cybersecurity framework. For those who are not from the tech area, let me explain to you a little bit about red teaming. Red teaming is you primarily hire a team of hackers to hack into your company and see what is going on. There's typically red teamers who try to hack into your company and they give you a report how vulnerable. So the attack. So on the previous one, you are primarily looking at solidifying and making your organization secure. Then you are hiring a team of red teamers who will try to still hack into your organization. And based on the report, you can again then strengthen your internal security. The red teaming becomes mandatory if you are MI or you're a qualified RE, and that has to be done. The team inside your company is typically called a blue team because that's what defends. So they are the defender, red team other attackers. So this is the detect aspect of the entire. Respond. Now that you have figured out, you have made yourself secure, you have protected your organization, you have put SOC, and now you have suddenly been under attack, and for whatever reason there has been a compromise. The first thing what SEBI says is report all cybersecurity incidents promptly via the SEBI incident reporting portal. It is important for you to report all cybersecurity incidents across into this portal. Secondly, you have to establish a comprehensive incident management system. So incident response management plan. And once that happens, what is the corresponding standard operating procedure? Okay, it happens, you have to inform this is what you do, this is how IT gets involved, this is how management gets involved, what are the next steps to be done, all defined under an extra role. Also, SEBI has something called as the Cyber Crisis Management Plan. All REs shall formulate an up-to-date cyber crisis management plan. Again, it's basically based on 5 concepts: anticipate, withstand, contain, recover, and evolve. Anticipate what is going to happen. You know you're going to be attacked. You know what is going to happen. When you're being attacked, you have to withstand it. If for whatever reason they get through, then make sure that it doesn't spread, recover from it, and finally, at next step, collect your learnings and evolve. And SEBI also says that it's important for you to do RCA, which is root cause analysis, to identify the cause which led to that incident, and if necessary, forensic analysis should be taken. Next comes recover. Now that an attack has happened, I'm sure most of you all have a BCP and DR plan. DR primarily deals with your disaster recovery of your data, your information of your systems. Business continuity planning is very important. Document and trigger a comprehensive response and recovery plan to promptly restore systems after a cyber security incident. Again, SEBI has been very kind to give us the Annexure C, which basically shows us how that should be done. So your BCP and DR plan with your RTOs, RPOs defined. How is your data recovery going to happen? Does it implement any aspect of war? What does it comes under recover? Also inform all relevant stakeholders about the actions taken during the recovery process as required. It cannot be that IT only knows it or management only knows it. It needs to be relayed across, and basically your crisis management plan should cover up who are the relevant stakeholders and who will look after. I think I've covered up all the 7 aspects. What I'm going to do now in the next 10 or 15 minutes is I'm going to basically summarize what are the mandatory compliance requirements, no matter whether you are a qualified RE or you are a mid-size RE, you are a very small, you are just getting into the business, whatever you are, there are certain things which are mandatory for all of you. The small REs must submit a VAPT. There are, I think, 9 of them. These 9 are mandatory for all of us. So let's go one by one. First is VAPT. Small REs must submit a VAPT report within 1 month of completion and close any findings. This could be an NSA, which is a network security or a VAPT, a network security audit. There could be application VAPT depending on what is your role and what is your business. Next, a cyber audit is mandatory to verify compliance with CSCRF. That means you need to get it audited. The audit report format has been standardized and all open observation must be closed within 3 months of report submission. The first thing you need to really worry is get an audit done. Get an audit done. Get somebody who's knowledgeable to audit your entire system, who understands various different aspects of it, and make sure that your audit is done. which will include also maybe a VAPT depending on the size and what is the systems which you have in your organization. Next, for small REs, they should strive to build an automated tool and suitable dashboard submitting CCI compliance. So cyber capability index, uh, I think it is, I feel this is a little, requires little maturity in the cybersecurity area to, basically, but it's a great point for you to start with. You should look at primarily saying, hey, do I have already a dashboard? Is there an application available which I'm using? Maybe you're already on a Microsoft or a Google platform, and you could use one of the tools internally to primarily create business intelligence, Power BI sheets, which will allow you to look at a mandated dashboard, which will allow you to see all these aspects. So these are the three. I'll come to the next six. API security. Again, these again reminding you, all nine are important for all our REs. Smaller REs should implement API security measures, including API discovery, access rate limiting, secure management, API development, and a zero trust approach. Zero trust is something which is in the industry of IT, has been really, really very useful. It has helped even work from home and aspects and vendor management, etc., to be brought into a framework and into a process. So any kind of applications, you need to do API security, you need to do an API VAPT and make sure that that is blocked. Risk management, cyber risk management, this includes identifying, analyzing, evaluating, prioritizing, responding to, and monitoring cyber risks. So this primarily looks at all kind of cyber risks, including internal risks, insider risks, and of course, risks and threats from outside hackers and various different other malicious actors. What SEBI has included is the software bill of material, SBOM. Small REs shall maintain transparency, track vulnerabilities, mitigate supply chain risks, and ensure only authorized third-party dependencies are used in their software applications. A lot of us have developed applications. We are using a lot of applications. Some of them are legacy. Some of them have been developed 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years, and they have not been updated. They also depend on certain libraries which are could be open to attack. So the SBOM submission is important. Data security, of course, you need to have data security in place, which primarily looks at uh, encryption. It looks at having your firewalls in place, having what kind of identity and access management. The small REs, as I mentioned earlier, that for monitoring continuously, they can use the market stock set up by NSE and BSE to bridge technological gaps and provide robust SOC services. From what I understand, is SEBI is offering it at a really low cost, and you therefore are at an advantage out there. Incident response. This is something a lot of people ignore, and I think it's very important. Small REs must follow a structured incident response process, including preparation, detection, and analysis, containment, eradication, and recovery, and post-incident activity. What we're trying to say here is things have happened, but have you from first put in an IT security management, IT service management system, which will record all your incidents, which will ensure that the analysis and everything has been put into an incident response system. And only when it is there, then you have an incident. When this happens, what will the team do? How are they prepared to handle it? What is the places where they will immediately, kind of isolate? Which are the places where it will ensure that this is primarily contained and does not spread further in your organization? And if you have done your network segmentation, if you have done your protect part, which you saw earlier, well, the incident response system should kick in case you are. Again, I am repeating, and this may be multiple number of times I'm repeating. It's not about if it will happen. It is about when it will happen. Everybody is vulnerable. There are new updates, new patches, new software, new systems, new people joining the organization, new computers being bought, new firewalls being installed. There are configuration issues. There are cloud issues. There are many issues. So somewhere some slip happens, if not now. We need to be ready. When that happens, how will we respond? So this is very critical. Now, what we have done is I have reviewed across I have given you the gist of the 209-page document. Now, what I want you to introduce to you and what I would like to talk to you about is how do we go about with it? What is our approach? And at Matrix City, what we have done is we have created primarily a four-phase plan. This four parts of the plan will make sure that you have compliance across. So let me introduce you to the Matrix 3D plan, which will four-stage solution for implementing the CSCRF SEBI circular. Stage one, cyber risk and governance. Stage two, cyber security infrastructure and controls. Stage three, incident response and cyber resilience planning. And stage four, obviously, is continuous learning and improvement. IT will always keep on changing. If you do not have continuous learning and improvement, anything which you may say will be obsolete. And therefore, there is necessary. That's why I said you at the beginning that you need to have somebody who's responsible for cybersecurity in your organization, either internal or external. So let me explain quickly in the next 5 minutes. We are on time. We will finish on time. So just explain quickly these four to you a little bit. So stage one is comprehensive cyber risk assessment. Here you have to give security ownership, as I told you. There has to be a designated person. It's very important for you to conduct a security assessment. Map existing and gaps against the SEBI framework requirements. That means once the assessment is done, you have to understand that where are the gaps, what has to be changed, and what are the recommendations, and what is the right solution to all these gaps. Remember, we don't have unlimited budget. You need somebody who's intelligent who will be able to tell you how to fill up those gaps. Next, stage two, robust infrastructure. Some of this, I feel this is the place where I think almost all REs have some level of maturity. Multi-layered security architecture, MFAs you may have various different firewall accesses, etc. Implement strong access control mechanism. Identity and access management is very, very important. Where are your passwords? Who has access to what files? Who has access to which terminal? Why? What is the data? Which team does what? That's very important. Encryption. Then this is an interesting one which SEBI has bought in. I am happy to see that they bought in develop comprehensive data classification scheme. Since all of us in businesses generate a huge amount of data, we can't say that all the data is secure. We cannot apply. It just becomes prohibitively expensive. If you bring in data tagging, if you bring in data classification, if you define critical assets, you will be able to bring down the cost of cybersecurity and cyber resilience. So develop comprehensive data classification scheme, create secure data backup and recovery mechanism. This is self-explanatory. Establish a SOC, implement real-time threat. You don't need to establish your own SOC. If you are not an MI or a qualified RE, you can use the market SOC. So that's stage two. So I've given you stage one, I've given you stage two. Stage one has assessment, stage two has technical security, stage three primarily has incident response plan development, which is where it is looking at in case you happen, what is the plan going to be? Also, somebody has to look at your business continuity and disaster recovery. Your BCP and DR plan has to be validated. Your policies have to be validated. You have to find whether they are applicable for 2025. Please don't give a 2021 or 2019 pre-COVID plan and say this is the DR plan, this is the BCP plan, because it's no longer applicable in 2025. And of course, stakeholder communication strategy. Who are the ones who are going to be informed when the incident will happen? How will they react? What do they have to do when they are informed? Who is responsible for informing on the portal? Who is responsible for taking the action? So all these things become a part of the stakeholder communication strategy. And finally, continuous learning and improvement. What we have found is a lot of areas, not a lot of areas, I would say maximum number of places. It's primarily the lack of awareness by the users. So cybersecurity awareness and training is something which really, really helps you avoid situations, because you get a phishing mail. One of your new joinees have opened a phishing mail. Somebody has compromised the system here. Some other system in your network segmentation or your because of misconfiguration of your firewall, suddenly your entire systems are compromised. So I can say that to a large extent, you can protect your organization if you periodically conduct cybersecurity awareness and training. Also, continuous testing and validation, regulatory and technologically adapt, regulatory and adaptation. That means you primarily need to look at, okay, technology has changed, new things have come in, updates and patches have to be done, and the new regulations come in. Am I ready for that? So we made it pretty simple, 4 aspects. Get your got yourself audited, create your policies, create governance, then primarily make sure technical security is in place. Third, on operational level, make sure that you have an incident response system and what is going to happen. And finally, make sure that you have a continuous learning, and that's it. With that, I primarily end this session. My name is Parvez Devan, as I said, and I've been looking at this. In case you need to have more questions, you can connect with Dikshita. She's a part of my team. With that, I think I should open myself up for Q&A. Any questions you have, you can put it on the chat box in the Q&A session, or we can, kind of have a voice thing. Both are fine. Dikshita, over to you.
Hello. Thank you, sir. Thank you for this insightful session. I hope everybody has understood and everybody has got have a clear vision now what is to be done. So if there is any question, if there is any doubt, you can just raise your hand. I'll unmute you and we can have your questions here.
So I think Mr. Saurabh is here. I'll just unmute you. Yes, Mr. Saurabh, you can just unmute yourself and ask your questions, please.
Hi, thank you. We are SEBI registered RIAs, and we don't touch our investors' money. And the softwares that we use are all third-party softwares, especially for reporting where the client's investment data is there, are all third-party software which are on cloud. Now, these providers claim that they have done their VAPT and all. In which ways we will not be able to do it on their behalf because it is on their server. So, how do we be compliant in these cases?
So, Murtaza, you will need to help me a little bit, but let me first try to help Mr. Saurabh. So the idea is that what SEBI says that all third party or whatever connects to you also becomes your responsibility. Now, there are ingress and outgress points in your organization. As long as you have protected and taken due measure to put in protection mechanism, you have done your assessments, your critical assets, because you are interfacing, and the software which they are third party, you have to do the VAPT, or you have to ask the third party vendor to give you a VAPT report. If that is Murtaza, am I right?
Yeah. So I think you just framed it right. So as if they're third party, they need to give you a third party VAPT report. Okay, if you are using a third party service, but it has to come from a certain certified company. Okay, so until and unless the software that you're using and they are of your third party, and until and unless they give you a VAPT report by a certain certified company, I think that's fine. It's taken care by the SEBI in terms of the compliance on the VAPT point.
But it does not absolve you, Saurabh, saying that it's a third party. I don't gonna do that.
No. The term here which says that even the people third party that you engage with your company, also you're accountable while engaging with them, right? So
yes.
So you're indirectly taking care of that. So that's how the complete thing is taken care of.
There is this question by Prachi on the chatbot, and so when I'm saying that there is mandatory compliance, it's applicable to all REs. That's why I picked up the mandatory one. I picked up the LCM, the lowest common, means the ones which the 9 which I've told you is applicable to all REs, irrespective of their classification. So you're right, Prachi. I hope that answers your question. Any other questions? You can surely connect to us later on, either to Dikshita or to me or to Murtaza, and we would be able to more than happy take these questions. And please give us feedback either on the LinkedIn or on the feedback form. Please make sure that you fill in the feedback because this helps us go across. Our objective is to make India safer. the digital threats are quite a lot, and we want to make sure that there is enough protection, and wherever we can help, we would like to help. Anything else, Dikshita? Will we end the session? If there are no more
Yes,
questions.
if there is any doubt, you can definitely connect with me on the email ID that has been mentioned on the slide. And that's it. Thank you for your valuable time. Thank you for connecting. Thank you for joining. Have a
Yes.
nice day. Yeah.
Thank you.